The dreaded plunge grind. I know a lot of people hate this and having to deal with it. I'm not a huge fan of it myself, but I have learned to deal with it and have gotten pretty good at getting rid of it, and the little unsharpened section there, and just sharpening it all the way back most of the time. Which I figure there's 3 different ways you can deal with this. You can either cut it all the way in and just keep it like Spyderco sharpens it, sort of like I have with the little native, which I feel like can be difficult for some people. Or you can add a sharpening choil with a Dremel tool or a diamond file set, needle file set, or you can sharpen it all the way back. So if you're going to sharpen it all the way back, the first thing you need to do is get rid of what I call the nub. So I've inserted a picture of the Endura here. It's pretty drastic on this one. So basically you need to bring line number 1 back to the rest of the sharpened edge at line number 2. And I'm going to show you guys the whole process here. We're going to cut the nub off of the little native. It's not too bad on the little native. I've already ground some of it away, even though I've never sharpened it all the way back. You can see on the Mannix there, I just sharpened it all the way back. I tried to record that footage and make this video with the Mannix, but the footage just didn't turn out the way I wanted, so I'm going to do it with the little native. First thing you need is a good diamond plate. I recommend using a diamond plate because it's not going to tear it up. This is sort of a gnarly thing to do to a stone, and if you're using a stone with a soft binder like an aluminum oxide stone or something, it's probably gonna tear it up pretty good. So I recommend doing this with some type of either diamond or CBN plate. So basically this is what you're gonna do: set the stone, or the knife down on top of the stone, perpendicular to the stone, and grind away that little nub that sticks out until it matches up with the rest of the edge. And my little pocket stone here is pretty worn down, so this takes a little while to get it done. And the most important thing during this process is make sure that you raise your edge up off the stone just a little bit. Don't grind into the rest of your edge, because you just want to focus in on that unsharpened section and cut that away until it meets up with the rest of the edge. So don't destroy your knife and grind your grind your edge away on the stone while you're doing this. Just pay attention, be careful. Check your progress often during this. Take your time, go slow, and everything will come out good if you pay attention and take your time and do it properly. So you can see I've got my edge lifted up off the stone. I'm just cutting on that unsharpened section. And then you'll know when you're done when it basically starts to barely cut into the edge right there in front of the unsharpened section. That's how you know it's time to stop, that you can move on to the rest of the process. Like I said, this takes a little while with this stone. It's just worn down. And Rex 45 is very hard, but really not that difficult to sharpen in my opinion. And I just came up with this one day a couple years ago. I had a pair of 3 that I wanted to sharpen all the way back because I wanted it to look nice, and this is just sort of the method I came up with. I don't know if this is how other people do it, or if there is another or better way to do it. This is just how I do it, and it seems to work pretty well. So put the stone down on the table. That way I could put a little more pressure on it and finish grinding that little section away. And then once you get done with this part, you can start cutting in the edges on each side. So we'll get into that in just a second. So now you can see we pretty much got it cut in there. So now we can start cutting in each side. So when you go to do this, you want to lay the knife on the stone just like you were going to sharpen it. And basically you're going to lift the edge up just like you did when you were grinding the nub away. You're just going to, pull your handle down just a little bit to raise the rest of the edge off the stone, and just use the very corner of the stone or the edge of the stone to cut in that unsharpened section. And basically you raise your knife up, find your angle, lock your wrist in place, and then lower your handle down to pick the rest of the edge up off the stone, and just use the corner of the stone to cut in that unsharpened section. And definitely during this process, check your progress often. Make sure you're maintaining your angle as you're cutting this in, because you don't get a good feedback while you're doing this. It's hard to tell where you're at when you're cutting in that sharp corner to try to match it up with the rest of the edge. So definitely check your progress often, make sure you're cutting in the right spot, and just focus your attention into the plunge grind. And then you're just going to cut away until you've basically cut in that entire unsharpened section. Once it gets to about the same width as the rest of the bevel, that's when you can sort of start blending in that portion with the rest of the sharpened edge, as you see me doing here. And I actually messed this side up a little bit. I lost my angle and went too far back accidentally. And I've done this a dozen times probably. So just be careful. Like I said, check your progress often. And it's not a big deal if you make a little mistake like that. You can easily fix it. Just having to take a little bit more material off, but in the end it wasn't too bad. So moving on over to this other side, same thing. Find your angle, lower your handle or lift up the edge off the stone, and just use that corner of the stone to cut in. You can see we've cut in a little bit there, and you can see a little bit on this side where I went too far back, but we'll fix that. Back on this side, focusing attention into that unsharpened section, grinding away. There you can see it's almost there. A little bit more to go. And then once you get it cut out where it matches the width of the rest of the bevel, you can just sort of start blending it together. And honestly, like you see me, I've started right here, just because it doesn't have to match perfectly for you to blend it. Or when you start blending, you can just focus more attention as you go, but also blend at the same time if you want to. That's what I'm doing here. It's not a difficult thing to do. Takes some patience and I guess a little bit of experience, but it's definitely not that hard. A little practice and you can do it. If you're a good freehand sharpener, you can do this, I say, pretty easily. I mean, the first time I did it, I just did it and had no reference to go off of. I just kind of figured this out, so I feel pretty confident most sharpeners can do this. So now you can see we've pretty much got everything blended in and looking pretty nice. That is pretty much the process there. So first thing, grind the nub away with either a coarse diamond plate or a Dremel tool of some sorts, or a file, a diamond file if you have it. Number 2, grind in the unsharpened section on each side of the blade at the same angle of the existing sharpened bevel to the same width as the existing sharpened bevel, and then blend the two edges together, the existing edge and the new one that you just cut in, and then finish out the sharpening process. And that's pretty much it, guys. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me or leave them in the comments below. And I hope this is some useful information for people out there. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.